Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is djwheat, and we are about ready to hop into game number 2 of Stephano versus Last. But first, Day 9,
what?
We've got an update.
That's right. Gosu User and Bomber have been playing an insane series in game number 2. I don't know if any of you have been on Reddit, but let me tell you and take the real-life karma for it. In game 2, Bomber Hunter Seeker missiled one of his own medevacs 3 times, and then boosted it over all of Gosu User's infestors. So when the Seeker missiles hit, it killed the medevac and 50 supply worth of units underneath it. Oh, it was amazing. And then in game 3, Bomber accidentally nuked his entire army, losing about 80 supply in one detonation. At the 40-minute mark, djwheat and I had to cast, and at the hour and 20-minute mark, Gosu User pulled a miracle win to bring the series to 1-2.
Yeah, amazing. So, I cannot even believe that it was still going on when we left. It didn't look like it had an end in sight, but to think that it went an hour and 20 minutes, there it is, 1-2. And we're now on the other foreigner matchup, which is, of course, Stephano versus Last. Good luck, have fun. Both players are ready, and now, don't forget, we're on Daybreak.
Daybreak, it's a lot harder to be aggressive as a Terran player because the distances are longer, but Stephano must have an answer to these crazy fast medevacs. Honestly, Mutalisks are becoming the norm.
And you know what? You made a great point early on when you were talking a little bit about Stephano and what he doesn't do.
Yeah.
And Mutalisk has always been one of those things. It's like Mutalisk games for Stephano are the games where you're like, yo, did you see that one game out of 100 where he actually went Mutas? That's really the frequency in which it felt like. Let's introduce our players here in the Southwest position as the Red Zerg. We have got EG Stephano.
And you may not know anything about him, but his skill is undeniable. Utilizing a Marine Marauder medevac style with Widow Mines, does he have some more flair up his sleeve? It's Last.
You know, Sean, there's one problem to sort of what Last was doing in that last game as it relates to having that Widow Mine field on top of his army, because you do know how dangerous that actually could be.
I mean, Marcus, I played Brood War. I know exactly how dangerous mines under the army can be.
You know, and I'm not saying that there's necessarily any particular way that I saw Stephano could have, you know, done that, unless maybe Infested Terran, I don't know. But if we do see a similar style out of Last, I'd be interesting to see how he's going to deal with the pressure and you know, avoiding any sort of splash onto his own units.
Yeah, I mean, what's nice about the Marine Marauder, I'll just call it the Biomine style. It's a lot easier than listing off every damn unit and then finishing it with mine. But the Biomine style means that if you're against a slow passive player who's going something like Roach, you can use the mines a lot more to defend your army, to sort of be at the front lines that your Marine Marauder are working around. But if you're against a fast army like a Ling Muta, you just stim and retreat and plant the mines way far behind. And then as you kite, you eventually just run right back over the mines and you pick off huge packs of units, because that's when the Ling Muta is most often clustered.
We do have a command center coming down for Last. So certainly a much different opening. If you just joined us in game number 1, Last did open things up with a proxy Reaper opening, about 3 Reapers out, and not a ton of damage done, but certainly some attention deviated away from Stephano. He retreated back, then went into that Biomine style. Now we're seeing him switching things up a little bit on Daybreak, which is certainly understandable.
Yeah, I mean, Daybreak is the map where Terrans sort of really finally resigned to playing long, slow, passive games. Sure, mech can eventually crop up here and there, but generally we see 3-base bio play with some pushes right down the middle line. I mean, MKP has occasionally done this tankless bio style, which is fine, but for the most part, you just need a 3rd base pretty quick as Terran. 2-base timing pushes aren't great.
We've got the 1 gas up. We've got the first Marines coming out right now. We should note that immediately, of course, we saw the spawning pool go down after the hatch, and then we've got gas starting to pool up. That he's going to go for Roach Warren right away.
Oh.
Yep. I think this is kind of like, I mean, this is a tilt build
You know, this is actually, I would call it the anti-tilt build.
Okay.
This is the strong read build, Marcus. This is saying, oh, you went command center first, your gas is delayed, so I am actually just going to throw roaches at you. And then, I mean, if you go for mines actually are very bad at dealing with this sort of push, because you run one lane forward, the mine goes off, and then the roaches have nothing to contend. More standard Hellion style is what really works. And now we're going to see a big flood of roaches.
Yep.
There's 6, 7, and 8 should be coming up, and then Stephano pulls everything off gas and just goes along a normal path.
8 on the way out. Now, the one thing is that there is an SCV at the forward Xel'Naga tower, which obviously this would make the strat known. Now, does he just run out these 2 roaches and take it out before he shows everything? Ideally, that would be great. We're going to find out here in just a second as we kind of like cheat and look at, oh no, that SCV saw a lot. He knows exactly what's coming.
Uh-oh, and it looks like Last is answering by just building tanks immediately. Is that what we're seeing? It looks like he's just going to go straight for the tech lab. Oh, no, he's going mines. Uh-oh, Last is in a lot of trouble. I mean, hell, you can even have the roaches eat the hits. Burrow going down right now for Stephano.
And that'll be a nice, obviously, accompaniment to this build right here. Now, keep in mind, we're going to have the 1 mine at the front. There are 3 Marines inside the bunker. SCV's ready, and there it is. The mine goes off. 1 roach is hit, easily separated, and he's going to immediately go in for that bunker. It's going down quite easy, but now we see the repair going down. Will Stephano just march past us and start going for the
Widow
SCVs?
mine gets taken out. And SCVs are starting to fall rapidly. Mines do not work very well against this style, and now it looks like Stephano may very well just pull back to behind here, and it's going to be just wide open, naked units trying to go up against roaches. So good in those small numbers.
A lot of SCVs killed already, up till 9, and he's got no additional units coming in on this. He's really hoping this burrow finishes before the last roach go down, but that is not going to happen, and all the roaches will fall. The damage done, 9 SCVs, a few Marines were killed. He also picked up a Widow Mine. But what do you feel about that defense from Last?
I feel like the defense for Last was as good as it could have been. A little bit of debate about what to lift and land, but, Mine's just not that great, as we saw. Can't really get him into position once the attack has begun, but I think the big blunder for Stephano was that burrow was not well timed. It should have been done right along with that push as opposed to after all the roaches are dead and there's nothing left to burrow.
I mean, what would you have sacrificed, though? A few extra roaches for the burrow? Would that have,
Yeah, that is a good point. It's just, it's hard for that to actually work out well.
Right.
I mean, it almost makes me wonder if Overlord speed would be a better option, to march the Overlords with speed forward to absorb those mine hits to do even more damage.
Yep. Either way, hindsight is 20/20. Now we've got some Widow Mines moving out, and we talked about this yesterday during the pregame show, and we talked about Heart of the Swarm and some of the new things that we've got, and one of the things I really feel like I have been loving is seeing the Terran players using the Widow Mines to control space at the Xel'Naga towers in paths that are frequented by the enemy army, and gaining a little bit of vision in the process. And I think that as we see the game continue to develop, like, that's going to become a really, really cool skill, subset skill to have as a Terran.
Oh yeah, and even continuing along, forcing the enemy army into weird positions so that you can plant your mines at paths where he's going to be reinforcing. You can just get some insane shots off, especially against Ling Muta-ing player. But, it's like you're saying, Stephano never really likes going for these finesseful, harassy, aggressive styles. He has a tendency to like just big armies and big confrontations in the middle, and everything sort of goes in that vein. Now maxing out on roaches, is that what we're seeing? It looks like 59 drones has been the halting point, but Last is already kicking up with the medevacs, so this is where Stephano starts to slowly falter.
And this is where I think Last can really just make a huge dent here in Stephano's play overall. Now with these 2 medevacs going directly in, there's not a whole lot here. And Stephano does identify pretty quickly, but the drop is going to go down right in the middle of the middle line. A few roaches have already fallen. Looks like he's going to take care of this one okay, but there is going to be another force over at the 3rd. He has to bring the entire army back. Actually, no, it is still doing a ton of damage.
Jeez, these drops are giving him a hard time, and now it looks like Stephano trying to split up his army to deal with this. He has the +1 range. He does not have +1 carapace. Speed is not yet done. Looks like the medevac gets out, but pretty much in Heart of the Swarm, every medevac always gets out.
It was an awesome split by Last, though. He fired up both the medevacs and then shot them over to the natural. Then as the army responded, he then brought one back to the main. And although it didn't do a whole lot of damage, it did allow the natural one to do something. And you're right, Ignite Afterburner, just cool ways that we're seeing it used. And there's another display right there. So the third base is now established for Last. We see a fourth going down for Stephano. That's the far northwest one. And aside from that, more medevac. Actually, that was the medevac that was in the natural, and it goes through and gets one last survey. But we're still on roaches with the Hydras now starting to make an appearance.
Now this is an unusual situation that Stephano finds himself in. Stephano can actually take this fourth base right now. Pretty uncommon when you're trying to go for the usual sort of Lingenfester fast hive to be able to get that fourth just by taking it straight up like that. But Last is beginning to power up. We're seeing his tank count increase. We're seeing the 5 barracks in the main, a second factory up in the main base.
Now, quick move out here by Last, and I don't know, quick wasn't the right descriptive word there, but just an attack here or a check on the fourth. He's going to be moving up, and right as this is about to finish, he's going to start working on it. That'll force a cancellation and bring it back. So Last being very, very proactive here on the map, and he is going to load up, and he likes to do this. We've seen this do it twice now. I should mention this 2-2 well underway, and certainly Last is playing a little bit more in step to how I feel like he should be.
Oh yeah, I mean, not missing a beat with those upgrades coming out right on time. It's looking really nice for him.
I think these medevacs were spotted, Sean. A bunch of Hydralisks seem to get into position at the third place to be anyway. But that fourth now not going up. If I was Stephano, I'd make sure that that third was certainly going to stand. With more army moving down here by Last, I feel like he's just going to drop main, drop third at the same time, and really put Stephano to the test here.
This is going to be a tough defense. I mean, right now, this little attack is just a distraction. Does Stephano have anything at his third? Not quite yet. Oh, the drop. Excellent timing right there.
He had those 5 Hydras that could have single-handedly stopped this. Now there are a couple of static defense buildings going up, but the third falls.
Oh no. An incredibly bad spot right now for Stephano.
And we see the medevacs going directly back into the main. This time Stephano has a few units there, but Last is doing a fantastic job of just keeping Stephano running back and forth. That third went down, drones were killed. It's being re-established now. The fourth was only a quarter of the way up as that was happening, so Stephano finds himself back on 2 bases.
He's looking very, very good for Last. Fourth base is really the big kicker. Stephano cannot pierce that. I mean, maybe if he gets enough Vipers up, he can begin to work his way in, but look at the Marauder count. It's really high. 15 Marauders up for Last. Those are going to just rip through those roaches. Vipers coming up, range finally coming in, 3 upgrades coming up, and Stephano's just trying to get back to above 2 bases. So as far as a long-term plan, Stephano needs to do some kind of damaging attack soon. He can begin to get some footing back with bases, but he's going to have to really go for bases 5 and 6 as a long-term plan. Just trying to rely on a win on 4 bases is going to fail miserably, especially with all these double-pronged attacks we see coming out of Last.
We've got almost an exact replica of the Last attack coming in here from Last. He has the same amount of Widow Mines, this time a few more tanks to pad it all up. The problem is the Vipers are just a little bit behind. And we did see Stephano go hive tech while that third was getting assaulted. Now he's having to pull all of his drones, and unfortunately he just doesn't have what he needs to even try to defend against this army.
So he's just going to let the fourth fall. It's a painful decision, but it's the correct decision. Drops still going on from Last in the backside, but it's the front end that Stephano finally has a little relief pressure after abandoning the fourth. There's nothing left to defend. Drop in the main.
Drop back into the main once again behind that Roach Warren. He's going to get a few of these units out. He is close to that static defense. That's going to help out. Meanwhile, the army of Last is moving into position to re-assault this third. It just got back up. He's got his tank sieged in the back. We do have the Vipers are going to drop the Blinding Cloud on top of the tanks. Great job, but a lot of Stephanos are so choked up here. And oh, the front line of Hydras gets decimated, and the third goes down. But more importantly, Stephano's army actually survived a lot longer than it should have because of that blinding cloud. And we find for the first time in a while, actually no, he's right back up there. From just for a moment, Stephano's supply dipped ahead. But Stephano, back to 2 bases.
He's going to have to re-expand at really just a risky pace. There's no way he can just play this out in a calm way. He's got to attack, and 17 Hydralisks are in production. This is the moment where Stephano has to make maximum use of the Vipers. The Widow Mines are unlikely to be in super high numbers. Stephano taking out his own destructible rocks. The main base was actually quite a big target for Last, and just continued to drop. And here's Last just barreling on in. Hydra's getting into a pretty good position. Where is the rest of the Hydras? There needs to be a perfect flank.
Yeah, there's actually a bunch of units up top that could potentially flank in here. There's the scan, and then I seize that base, so he could potentially try to come in from the back. Stephano really spread out here, but we just saw Last put himself into the middle of everything.
Oh no, the mines, the Vipers get taken out almost immediately by the mines, but the blinding clouds, oh my God, Stephano is gonna just destroy this in seconds.
It was exactly what he needed right there, exactly. I'm not sure, he went up because there was a medevac. That's why he had that army up at the 4th. That army pretty much allowed him to then sandwich everything, and suddenly it goes now to 148 supply, 169 supply, but in army, it is now in Stephano's favor.
Stephano's blitzing ahead. There's not a lot of tanks. There's not a lot of Marines. The mines get taken down. Last does not have a good angle, but he does have a lot of bios starting to step up, and it looks like Stephano's not getting the best angle, but how do you approach a planetary fortress with just those Hydralisks? You need the Vipers. Vipers actually work. The blinding cloud is successful against that, but right now these 3 Widow Mines are really causing some problems. Stephano just does not have a good angle. He must pull back.
Yeah, I mean, all these units have taken some hurt, and he's going to drop down to see if there's a 4th in the southeast. There is, but unfortunately it's also a planetary. And as these units pop out one by one, you're right, the cluster of Widow Mines still causing problems all around. He's going to go after that planetary regardless, losing a few units in the process, but he manages to take it down. So he's sort of equalizing, but you said he needed to expand more aggressively, and I feel like he's still in that position.
Oh gosh, the upgrade, the alligator clamp upgrade for those Widow Mines allows them to burrow so fast. The mines are just wreaking havoc. There's going to be another expansion down, and I mean, in this position, Stephano's still looking to be in very, very bad shape.
Yeah, with that one going down as well, this 4th outside in the middle has not been taken, and you know, here it is. He tries to combat versus these drops, and then they just pick up and run away. And it has been stretching Stephano really thin.
More drops in the main base. Last just never misses a beat at all.
He's looking fantastic. I mean, absolutely. He's every time where Stephano is not. The pool goes down now. There's still drops in the northern bases for Stephano. And he just goes ahead and evacuates them using that Ignite Afterburner, and then sits there, waits for things to cool down, and goes right back into it. Stephano has no place to expand right now, while Last continues. Well, he's about to mine out on that 3rd, or getting pretty close, but he's going to establish this southeastern base very, very soon.
I mean, really, Abduct is the only tool that Stephano has to deal with medevacs, and with this huge army swinging in, for the billionth time this game, Stephano's going to be way, way out of position. Blinding Cloud is super potent against this small tank Marauder-heavy army. And here comes Stephano. Looks like he's going to go for the engagement. It's a really, really bad angle.
Oh, really bad on both sides. But he tries to retreat, and then he goes back in. The Blinding Cloud from the back. Marines immediately getting out of that, trying his best to sweep back around. Keep in mind, the 3rd has gone down again while this is happening. Although that 4th stays alive, it just has a few points of health remaining, and he's going to chase this down at least for a little while, because back at the natural stimmed out Marauders,
God, the Marauders
but they're destroying everything, Sean.
They're just ripping apart these bases, and it looks like Last medevacs will finally fall at the front. The attack also working. I mean, Last in 1,000,001 places at once. and the Widow Mines continuing to deal massive damage. I mean, Last just an artful dropper. It's incredible. There's only 2 hatches left for Stephano, his 2 main hatches.
The abundance of production and units that are coming out here for Last in comparison to Stephano is allowing him to the point of just stimming to death. And there it is,
and there's good game.
Realizing that he had just been run around so much. Last extends his victory now to 2 games, 1 game away from defeating Stephano, and saying, well, you guys talked about how I don't have any accolades. I'm on my way to my first one.
I mean, that was fantastic. I mean, Last lost a lot of major engagements back to back to back to back, but still just dropped in these amazing positions, put mines around in these amazing positions, and by the end, the units lost tab was almost double for Last. I mean, Stephano was 20, 30K loss, and it was 10, 15 for Last. Just looking so good and weirdly low on Marines, unusually low on Marines, unusually low on tanks, favoring Marauders and Widow Mines.
And so far, so good. A couple of instances. Actually, in the last game, I do feel like the Vipers for Stephano coming out a little bit earlier, and you know that fight could have been a much more even trade. The timings that we're seeing, or the time, however it's working out for Last, is just right now wrecking Stephano. He's just moments away from, I think, where he wants to be and feels like he needs to be, but then Last just somehow manages to squeak in there.
I mean, when it comes down to it, the reason that Stephano's struggling is he has no way to directly deal with drops. Absolutely none. No matter how many spores and spines you plant, you can just fly around him. I do think muters will have to be the choice.
All right, well, guess what? We're going to take a break, but when we return, Game 3 of this best-of-5 series between EG Stephano and Last. We'll be back with more after this.